Hi everyone, good day. Today I'll be doing a short demo on MongoDB, and I'll just go through a couple of things here. As you already know, MongoDB is one of the most used NoSQL database currently in the market. So it uses a JSON formatted data structure as compared to relational databases. So most of the applications do use MongoDB, as a database. It's kind of lightweight and it's highly scalable and doesn't involve any complex relationships, just like what we have in RDBMS. So I'll have a quick agenda here. First, we're going to be installing MongoDB. Then we'll look at the setup and authorization, setup authorization. We'll see how we could create users, databases, and some collections, which is basically like tables in RDBMS. So we'll set up replication. Basically, we're going to be doing a replica set, and they will perform failover, and then we'll see how we can revert back to a former primary instance. And then we're going to set up a replica set with an existing MongoDB instance. Let's say you have an existing already MongoDB instance. How are you going to set up and do that? And we're going to install and use MongoDB Compass, which is just kind of GUI interface tool to manage MongoDB. So let's jump right in. So here, what we're going to be doing is I have four servers here. I'm going to be using PG Master like my main instance, and I'm going to set up two standbys using these two, and this last one I'm just going to have MongoDB Compass there. So let's jump right in. So let me just log into the server here, and okay. So first, we're going to jump into the installation of MongoDB, and it's kind of really straightforward. Mm, First thing, you just need to make sure you have a repository for MongoDB. So we're just going to create a repository right away. So I'm going to run VI, and then we'll just create this repository for MongoDB. Basically, we're going to be doing an enterprise for 4.4. Yeah. So let me just create that. And if you go to the website, you should be able to get all this information I'm putting in here. So just provide a site where it's going to download all the packages that is needed. So with that, I'm going to save this. And basically, I'm going to do this for all the other servers too as well, since I'm going to need the binaries there as well. So let me just open this other server. Oh, password one. Okay, so open up this guy here and paste this in here. And I'm gonna do the same over here. That for the compass, I won't do that right away. So for that one, I'll just need to install compass, and you guys will see how that works. That should be straightforward. Okay, let's put this in here. Okay, now I have MongoDB on this master, the two standbys. Now I can go ahead and run the installation of MongoDB. So I'm going to install the enterprise. Oh, sorry about that. So, so this will run the installation of MongoDB Enterprise. It should be 4.0. See here. And I'm gonna do same for the other ones. That should be pretty quick. And oops. So I think I already have it. So for the other servers, I will do the same. That's why. And then on the other standby, I'm gonna do the same. That's why. Okay. So this is still running. And over here, I still have it running. And over here, I still have it running. So let's just give it a little while, and that should be done. And then will move on to see how we could create users in MongoDB and yeah, see how we could set authorization and all of that stuff. It's cool. So very soon this should be done. So sometimes it can take a little while just based off of your internet connection and some resources you have there, but that normally shouldn't take shouldn't take that long. So on the master server is done, so that's fine. And basically what I'm just going to do now is I could just go ahead and start up the MongoDB service. So if I run systemctl start mongo MongoDB MongoD service name. So MongoDB started. So if we check here, we'll see that we have it already. We have it running. Now, how to connect to MongoDB? We're just going to do a basic connection here. So we can run Mongo. If you just type Mongo, it should be able to take you to the Mongo shell. So um, this is um, just takes you to a Mongo shell. And then from there, you can start doing whatever cool stuff you want to do. Uh, because so here, if we do show DBs, which actually shows the databases that are there, we see that we have admin, config, and local. So if we just try to say use admin, so use admin, now we're connected to the admin server, right? And sometimes you want to see if you're connected there, you can do get name, and you will see that you're connected to the admin server here. And then let's do show collections, which kind of just shows us if we have any tables in the admin server. So from here, we could see we have just a single table inside the admin server, the admin database, right? You could create your own databases as well, and you create some objects in there. It's possible. You could do that, and we're just going to see just kind of a sample and sample creating tables and all of that stuff. We're gonna talk about that. But first, let me just show you. Even from let me just show this one here. Let me just say I want to create a database called Benson. Uh, Creating a database is just all about just do use Benson, and the database is created. If we do show DBs here, sometimes you might not see that database, but let's just try to create an object inside the database. Definitely we'll see that come up there. So with that database Benson being created, if I do to see that I'm connected there, if I do db get name, you see that I'm connected to that database. So I'm just going to, I know I was supposed to kind of go through the creation of collections later on after showing you authorization, but now let me just get this done here. So let's say I want to create a simple collection. I call the collection post. So I do create collection. I'm calling it post, which is just like a table, relational databases. So I'm just creating a collection here. So if I create this collection here, and it's created on that database, if I do show DBs, basically you will now see that I have a DB there called Benson. That's the database that we have there. So I have one collection here now. So if I do show collections, right, and I should be able to see that I have only one collection there, which is post, which is basically that table. So now let's say you want to insert into that particular collection. I have a little piece of code here. I want to put some data in there. Let me just show you here. Let me paste this code, then I'll show you what it's doing here. So here is just you want to put some documents inside that collection. So I'm doing db post, and then I'm doing an insert into this post which I already created. And then I'm putting all these documents inside here. All right. So if I hit enter, that is done. Again, it will still show me that I have one collection. So if I want to see the data that is inside, and I'm going to do db post and then dot find, and then I'm going to see the data that I have in there. So this is the data I have in there. So this is just to show this was just to show how you could just create a table and create insert into that table and connect to a database there. Connect. Now, based on connection again, let me just come back one step again. Let's go back to authorization that we're supposed to do. Authorization we're supposed to do. So here now, if I do Mongo here, if you see me, I do Mongo here, and basically before I go into that, Mongo has a file. There is a file. Um, Mongo has a configuration file. It's stored in etc/mongo MongoDB file. If you open up this MongoDB file, you realize that it comes with a default port. So it's actually running on default port 27017. So again, you could connect to the database even just by running Mongo, or you put port and you put 27017. It will still take you to the Mongo shell. Right? And note here that when I connect to the Mongo shell and I do use DB Benson, for example, that I created, it does not really prompt me for any password. I just log in there and I can be able to see whatever I have there, and I can be able to see tables and all of that. So when you create a user now, you will need to make sure that it doesn't just log in without. Basically, you need to enable authorization. So um, so what we'll do here first is let's first of all try to create a user, and then and when we create a user, we'll try to use that user to kind of log in, right? So in order to create a user here, let me just log in back to the Mongo shell here. Um, log in back to the Mongo shell. Then I'm going to use Benson. Just my database here. Okay. Okay. And then to create a user, all you do is you run the db create user. You specify the name of the user, which is admin, the password, uh, which is admin at 123. And then you need to specify the roles. Here the user has a user admin any databases, so you can connect to any database and use that, and also has privileges on the admin database. So there are a lot of different ways you could do that. And here with this user that I've created now, um, I don't there are ways in which you could decide not to pass this password in clear text here, and I'm going to try to show that later on. So when we do that, if we run the db get users, right, will be able to see that we're able to see the user we just created now, which is admin user, and it's in the Benson database. So and by default, the user is the Scrum shell. Auth. I think this should be from MongoDB 4.0 and above. It uses this as default. So again, we've created a user. Now there are other ways in which we could connect to Mongo, you know, using that user that we just created. So basically, when we create a user there, in order for us to use that user to connect, it's basically a straightforward process. So with that user that we've created here, let me just what I can do here is in order to connect as that user, what we can do is we can issue the db auth, right? Db auth, you open bracket, and then they put the name of the user, which is admin, right? And then you now have to specify the password of that user, which is admin at 123, right? Admin at 123. So right now, so you see when you see return one, that means you're connected as this user admin. Okay. If there was an error connecting, you wouldn't see this message here. And then there are other ways in which you could go about that connection process, like when you're connecting to MongoDB, you could as well specify the user before connecting. Means what I mean is that, let me just exit from here. So what we could do is we could specify Mongo, we specify the port, and then we specify the authorization database, right? So we could specify the authorization database, and our authorization database, we'll put it to be Benson there, and we'll put the user, and note this is just a normal um, u in lowercase, and our user there is going to be admin. Okay, so we have our user there, which will be admin, and we say let it prompt for password. This is some of the ways in which you can do that. If I hit enter here, it will prompt me for the password, and I'm going to specify admin at 123, and then I'm connected. Okay, so those are different ways in which you could connect directly, and with that connection, you could see already that since I specified the actual database there, um, right? So you could decide to say I want to use Benson, and then there you go, you connected. So basically, you could connect to MongoDB using this. All right, those are different ways in which you could connect. Right. Now there are other options, and those other options are that. Remember, I said if you want to create a user in MongoDB and you want it to prompt you for a password, right? Another way you can do that is in this scenario here, I want to create a user here, and I kind of want to give it a different. Um, I don't want to put that actual password over there. You know, I don't want to put um, that password on the. I don't want to put a password inside in the clear text. So I want that when I'm creating, when I run my command to create a user, it should be able to prompt me for a password. So in order to do that, if I run this query here, you look at what it's doing. I'm creating a user here, and I'm calling the user prod user. The password, I'm not passing a password, so I'm using this function here, which is going to request me to request for that password. So if I hit enter here during creation, it will ask me for the password, and I can put the password in there, right? And then that's it, right? So those are different ways in which you could do that, which is good. Again, note that we have tried to connect to MongoDB, but it didn't prompt us for any password, right? And which is kind of not good, because we can easily connect to any database without being authenticated, right? So so again, in order to do that, in order to enable authentication in MongoDB, we will need to actually do some configuration inside the um, MongoDB MongoDB file. So let's just go ahead and open up that file right now. So just a second here. All right. So what we're going to do here is let's open up MongoDB file. And again, there's something I want to mention here in this file here is, now when you want to connect to MongoDB here, you need to, there's sometimes if you want to specify, for now it's only accepting local connections. So if you have to connect to MongoDB, using an actual IP address, you might decide to mention all the IP address here separated by comma, right? But in this case here, I'm just going to allow our connection from everywhere using .o. But if it's in your case, you might decide to mention all the IPs are here, addresses here separated by a comma. So under security here, we're going to enable authorization here. And in order to enable authorization, we need to be able to insert this. We need to be able to insert this particular string here. So we're just specifying authorization and we are saying enable. So that's what you have to do there. Let me go ahead and save that. And then right now I can go ahead and restart my MongoDB. So I'm going to restart MongoDB there. So after restart MongoDB, everything should be fine right now. If I attempt now to connect to a server here, let's take for example that I just connect like this, right? Now I'm connected to the Mongo shell. If I decide to say use DB Benson here, um, or if I just decide to say show DBs here, right? You see that it's not actually showing me anything. Okay, let me try to use Benson here, right? And then let me run show DBs. So I'm not really seeing anything. So I'm connected there, but if I do show collections, so you see I can't see anything, right? So it's saying unable to run this data approximate. So this is because we've enabled on authorization there. So which is kind of really good because you don't want somebody just to connect to a database and can able to run and see everything. So whenever you connect to the Mongo shell, you must connect to the database itself. So when you connect to the Mongo shell, it will now prompt before you can list any collections that are there, you must be able to connect. All right. So for that, let's just go ahead and grab that same connection we did here. So let's connect now to the database here. So let's go back here, down here, and then let's connect. So return one. Now let's do show collections. We see that it shows now collection. It doesn't give us an error anymore, and we can see collections that are there, and even the documents that are inside that collection. We can see that as well. So again, enabling authorization is really good, and this is just what I wanted to show when it comes to that. Okay, I know I did mention a little bit about creating users, but no, there are different options when it comes to creating users in there, and you can specify, you can use LDAP, you can use a lot of things there. So let's say we create a database called reporting here, right? So I've created a database called reporting. If I want to create a user, um, right, and I want that user to, you know, if I want to create a user there, and I want to give that user actual, privileges on some documents or some collections which I'm going to create there. If I run this command here, you see that I'm creating a user, and the user is going to be report user. Basically, we have access to reporting database. So I can decide to provide a lot of different roles here, which and right depending on different collections that I have inside a database. So you have the option of kind of really narrowing down when it comes to um, um, authorization, specifying the roles. You could also create roles as well, which is possible. So let me just quickly create this one here. So we see here that the user has been successfully added, and it tells you, all the roles and everything access that user can have. So those are different options that you could approach that as well. And there are other methods whereby if let's say you want to really restrict the user, right? There are other options where if you really want to restrict the user by actually specifying the source where the user will be coming from, and also specifying the server that the user needs to have access to, you could create it in this form whereby you specify the client source, the IP where the user is coming from, and the actual server user needs to access. So there are different ways in which you can specify requirements which you can do to run that as well. So you can just go ahead and create this, and that is fine. That works. So which means you have a client source and the server IP address. So there are different options that you can use when it comes to MongoDB, and when it comes to creating that, right? And then there's something I want to specify here also with MongoDB is that, like here, if I do show collections, I think we do have show collections. Let me see. Let me use Benson. I think I have collections in here. So I have one collection here. And let me just go ahead to create a collection here. Now look at this. This I'm creating a collection called tutorial point and I'm performing an insert. Now note here that the table does not exist, but I'm performing an insert on that table. So MongoDB could easily just go ahead, create a table and perform the insert on it rather than, so it's not the most that like you must create a table and then kind of run the insert. So you could just run the insert, which will create a table at the same time. So that has been done. If I do show collections now, look like I have a little error there. Let me see. Insert tutorial points, name, uncode machine. Let me see here again. What happened? That should be able to work. Okay, let me see. Uncode extension without bulk is undefined. I think I'll come back to that. Let me just walk you through something you have here. I think I'll come back to address this, why it's not working later on. So again, you have the opportunity of, working and doing quite a lot of different stuff. Let me just let me run another insert right quick here and create a table called users here. Let me see. Definitely, I need to figure that one out. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a table users, and I'm just doing an insert at the same time. So let me run that. That should work. Let me do show collections here. Let me see which let me use. Admin show collections is as, oh yeah, looks like it created that under here under admin. Let me see if that has all the same information I just inserted there. Okay, maybe I didn't check the database I was actually running. So let me do users dot find users find that code name. That should not be it though. Let me do show DBs. So let me do use Benson. I have just one collection in here. Let me do use test. Show collection, nothing in here. Yeah, it looks like it did create that. It shows it did create that, but somehow it did not. Let me try something here and I'll need to find out this. So let's just create one collection here. Oh, code name unauthorized. Oh, I see. Okay. Now let's exit. Let's exit here and let's connect here and let's use Benson. Okay, that means I need to connect. Get to be able to connect. about that. Yeah, so actually I created, I did connect. So the issue where we're having here is that I did connect to a particular user which I created earlier, and that user didn't have access to create those tables. So that's exactly what happened. So, but then again, you could, you could create tables just as we've done earlier on, and that should be able to work just fine. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I will want to create like a replica set. So we have replicas. We have a master and two replicas at the same time. So doing that, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to quickly. I'm not going to use this instance, and I'm going to shut down, stop this instance, and I'm just going to show you how you could do that if you don't want to use um, the default location of you know of MongoDB, because basically when you start running stuff in MongoDB, you discover that this is your DB path. The DB path goes here, but you can actually create your own DB path and use that. All right, and that's what I want to show you right here. So here, since we've stopped that particular instance there, okay, well, what we can do here is I'm just going to create a location here. I'm going to call it Mongo, and I'm going to call it DB master. I'm just going to call this location here. Oh, this is MKDR. So I'm just going to call this DB master. And on the standbys itself, I'm going to create a similar location also on the standbys, so that we could get this done as fast as possible. Standby, and I'm going to specify Mongo, and I'm going to specify that DB stand one. So I'm going to specify this as DB stand one, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other node too as well. And I'll use that like my location where I will have to initialize MongoDB. So I'm going to call it Mongo, and I'm going to call it DB stand two. All right. So with those different locations created on all of those servers there, the next thing you might want to do here is you just go ahead and start up those. And when you're starting that up, you need to make sure you mention that, okay, you're using replica set. So in order to do that here, I'm going to run Mongo. Sorry, I'm going to run MongoD. I'm going to specify the port. Now, in this case here, I will choose whatever port I want. I've actually stopped the firewalls and everything for this demo. So I'm going to use 700. All right. I'm going to use 700 for my master. And then I'm going to specify the DB path. Okay. And my DB path is going to be this path which I have created here. And you need to specify that this needs to be part of a replica set. So I need to specify the replica set like this. And I'm going to specify now the name of my replica set. So I'm going to call it, I'm just going to call this Ben replica. Okay, Ben replica set. So could I Ben replica set? And then the next thing is here is that since I will be creating this replica set across different hosts, across different nodes, right? So I have different computers here, servers here. So they are all different. So this one, they have all different IP address. So I need to make sure that they can both talk to each other, right? So I need to set the bind IP here. So I can specify bind underscore IP here, right? And for the bind IP, for now, I'm just going to allow everything to connect like this. So 0 to 0 to 0. So this is a command I'm going to run here on this node here, and it will automatically start up this instance here, right? So everything looking good. Let's hit enter. So it starts up the instance, and now uh, so this instance has been started. So let's go ahead and open another new tab here and log in here as root here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start up the other instance on the other nodes too as well. Okay. So I'm going to use the same command, but now I'm going to edit that. So here I'm going to use MongoDB 2 for that data location. So I'm going to use MongoDB1, sorry. Then for the port here, I'm going to use 2701. So basically everything stays the same. And you need to make sure that even though they're on different hosts, you must make sure that they belong to the same replica set. You must use the same replica set. You might have different location and different port, but they must have the same replica set. Right, so let me start up this guy here. So this one is starting up, and I go over here on this other node. I do the same thing. Let me just grab that command over here, which I ran. So MongoDB, grab this command. Oops, I didn't copy everything. So grab that command there. So the servers are up. I run now to start this one here, and this one I'm gonna use the same thing here. So I'm just gonna change this to 2, and I'm gonna change this to 2. So I've used 700, 2700, 2701, and 2702. So they have different ports. So I'm gonna go ahead to start this up. So that is running right now, and let me go ahead and open another port, another host here. I'm gonna log in here. Okay, so now with that login, let me open another shell here. Okay, all right. So now my MongoDB instance is running. So let me try to connect to that MongoDB. So I'm going to do Mongo, and I'm just going to specify the port to be 2700 since this is the one I just started now, and that's the port 2700. So here, if I do something like a status here, you want to see if it belongs to a replica set. So you can see it says no replica set config has been created yet. So so it has not yet been initialized. So you will need to initialize on the master. Right. So we'll do a little we'll initialize here on the master first. Okay. So what we'll do here is that to initialize this, you will run rs initiate. Rs initiate. So when you do rs initiate, it's going to initiate the cluster, and you will see there that even though it comes out this as a secondary, no, it's not a secondary. So you could see here now that we're running MongoDB Enterprise. This is my replica set, and this is the primary. All right. So if we run rs status right now, we're going to see here that we do have a primary node. Okay. So here we could see here that we have a primary. So you could see that there is a primary node right now. So this is a primary node. So whatever you do in here, for this demo, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to create, let me just do admin, let me connect to admin server, let me show DBs, they're there. Let me do show collections. We don't have any collections here right now. All right. So we don't have any collections here right now. We just have 2 collections there right now. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to quickly create some collections here, and we're going to try to just we'll just do some normal insert there, and we'll see how it goes. And let me just go ahead and create this here. Just go ahead and create that there. Me show collections. So I have a collection here called users. And remember, I tried to do this in the previous slide. It didn't work just because of that privilege I was telling you about. So you see here, I'm just creating a collection here, And at the same time, I'm inserting some documents inside. So you could see I just did the same command here, and that worked. You could see that I have my collection there. So if I do db users find here, right? Find. Oops, sorry, I spelled that wrong. So you could see the document that I have inside there already, right? So I have a couple already. So let's just go ahead and we create another collection and we insert some data inside. I'm going to create a collection called post. So you could see here that I have collection called post. Oops. Okay, I have a collection here called post now. Let me just insert some data into post right now. There's some huge data, almost the same thing I did earlier on. So let me do that. Okay. Okay, good. We're good to go. So now we have two collections here, and with we have two collections there, which we've created, and we have documents in them. So now we've initialized this, and this is the primary right now. So the question is, how are we going to add these standbys? So we have the standbys, which we already have them running. So in order to add those standbys, first we need to grab the IP addresses of those standbys. Let's check the IP address of standby one here. So you could see here that standby one is running on 192.168.91.128, and standby two, let's just quickly see that. This is running on sorry, I have Docker running here. That's why you could see all of this. But this is running on 192.168.130. So we have 128 and 130. So how do we add them to replica set? So you have to run rs.add, and then you open bracket, and then you will need to specify the the IP address of the remote nodes 192.168.91.128, and we know that 128 is running on which port? Is running on port 2701. All right. Okay. So good. So this is how you have to add it. So if if this instance can get access to the remote instance, and that's the reason why I asked us, we put the IP equals to 000, or you could decide to specify in the binary IP, you could decide to specify the different IPs if you want. So if we run this, so good. So the main thing you want to see here is OK one. And sometimes when it fails, you will see OK zero. That means it did not connect and it did not add. So at this point, we show that it got added. So in order to see that, let's just run rs status here, right? And let's check the status of the cluster right now. First and foremost, let's go down here. We could see that we have our primary server, which already exists there. That's fine. And then we go down here, we'll see that we have a secondary. So we see the secondary, and we see that the secondary is on um, on 128. All right. So that that works fine for us. Okay. And again, let's go ahead and add the other node. So the other node is 130, and it's running on this port. So let's add that in. So good, that has been added. We check the status again. So here we're going to see that we have two standby. So this is the first standby here, so the second one, sorry, anyway. So this is as the ID of 2, and this is it here on 130. And we could see also here that we have another secondary, which is on 129, and we have a primary, right, which is running very well. There are other different types of commands that we can use to actually see exactly, how everything is. You could see the configuration of the master if you want to see that. So there's some commands here. Let's say we want to see some some master config, and you could run that. And then if you look at the output it gives us here, it actually kind of gives us those hosts that are there, where it really shows us masters and our two standbys that are there. It shows us is master, it says true. So if it was not a master, basically it's not. So if you see on the standby, then basically it will show us that it's true instead of the standby. So but this is the master. So that's another way to see exactly if that node is a master or not. Just use the is master. All right. And then again, if you want to see also some other deep configuration about this, you can run ref-conf, right? Um, this will show you more information, deep information about each of the node. So you start with the ID 0, which is our master server. It gives you some information there. You have ID 1, which is one of our standbys there, gives some information there, and the ID of 2. So we start by 0, 1, and 2. So they're different, depends on what you want to look like for now, but all of them are just having the same priority for now. But priority exactly could be changed. All right. So now that we have our servers running there, let's hop up to the primer to the let's go over to the master uh, to the standbys, because now right now if we do show dbs here, right, we have 2 dbs. If we just do let me just create one here called Benson here, and I'm just going to kind of add some basic information there, just create the same users inside of there. And let's see. Okay. So if I do show collections here, right? So I have one collection inside Benson, right? Because right now I'm collecting to the database Benson. Okay. So remember we did do um, get name. We could see that I'm connected to database Benson, and I have just one collection in there, right? But on the database, if I switch to the database admin, you could see that this is the admin database. If I do show collections here, I have three. I have two that I created actually. So again, now the main thing is we want to see if this information we have on the primary, is it being replicated to the standby. So if we hop over to one of the standbys there and we log in to one of those standbys there, okay. So again, let's try to connect to a standby. So we run Mongo, specify port, and here our port was 701, right? We connect to the Mongo shell. So immediately we connect, you will see that it's actually secondary. And this is one good thing about it, is it shows you directly from the shell that, oh, this is a secondary server, right? Now let's try to say we want to use the database Benson, right? We do that already. And let's say we run a query here, and there's disconnected there. Let's do show collections here. So this error is expected. And the reason for this is because, remember, we just do show collections and it failed, right? It failed. It's not master or slave. Okay, now the reason for this error is because in MongoDB, the standby by default will not accept any read or write. So standbys do not accept read or write. So what you have to do is, for you to be able to read on the standby, you need to make it readable. And in order to do that, there is a command which we can run, which is rs secondary. We can do rs secondary OK. So when we press this rs secondary OK, it will not return you any error or anything. But now if you run show collections, you will be able to see the collections that are there. So if I do use admin now, and then I do show collections, I can see what is there. And just from here, you could see already that all our data is already being replicated across here already, right? Whatever we do there is everything we had is already there, right? If I do show DBs here, show DBs, you see that all my databases are there. Benson is there, and all my databases are there already. Right. So everything is being replicated. Right. And let's hop on to the other standbys. It's going to be the same process. Right. So on the other standby, basically it's going to be the same thing. So let's decide to connect to Mongo hyphen port, and then we specify a port 02. We connect to the shell. Again, it's going to be the same thing. If we want to, let's say we want to use Benson. Oh, sorry, Benson there. And then if I decide to show collections, it will not still work as well. All right. Collection, it still gives me that same error. So it won't actually work. So in order to make it readable, you can use this. So, okay, good. This is something I wanted to show here. On older versions, you could use slave OK. In the other side, we use RS secondary OK. But it tells us already, and this is what I wanted to show because when I use the other one, this is for newer versions, but for older versions, you could see them run slave OK. But it has actually worked, right? It has actually worked because if I do show collection, it shows, right? It just tells me that it's going to get duplicated, but for now, it still works. So again, um, just so you know, you could see some people using this older version. That's fine, all right? So if I do show DBs, so we could see that everything is there. So whatever we create on the master server is automatically replicated to the standby. All right. Whatever I create the master, if I do use prod here on the master server, and then I try to insert some data inside of prod, right? I create a table inside of prod. So I do show collection here, the same table I created there. You see that I have it there. So if I go over to the standby server here, and if I do show DBs, I should see my prod already there. It's automatically there. So it's replicating, and it's going to be the same thing on the other one. Is replicating immediately, right? So this is how you can set up a replica set. Now, one of the question here is, and one of the things we wanted to go over is how we perform a failover, right? Now, with this replica set, the good thing about it is if I shut down the standby server, right? If I shut down the standby server, one of the masters is going to automatically be elected and promoted to be a new standby, and the other standby will automatically be reconfigured immediately, right? So during a failover, it just does that at the background. If the master fails, then it will promote one of the standbys, and then the other standby will automatically be reconfigured, to still stream from the new standby right now. So this is what we're going to try to test out here and really see how if we do that, we can do that. So on the master server here, let me just try to exit here. And I think I do have, okay, the servers all of them are here. Okay. Okay, let me try out to let me just connect back, sorry. Let me connect back to my master. Let me do use admin. And I'm going to shut down the server from within the instance. So you could actually perform a shutdown from here. So if I'm just want to shut down the master server, and we'll see exactly what happens. Okay, so I'm going to shut it down from here. So when I perform a shutdown, you'll see here that it's shutting down. All right, so let me exit from here. So you will see here that it says server should be shut down, and that's true because if you see here, nothing, it's actually working. So it's actually shut down right now. So basically what we're seeing here, if we go over to the standby here, we could see that there is connection coming in. You see, it's attempting to connect to this particular server right now. It's reconfiguring it. All right. Now, if we hop over here, let me just do an exit here and connect back to this instance, right? Initially, it was a secondary. So let me connect back. So you see here, immediately I connected it. This guy is already promoted as a new primary server. So he is now a new primary server and is streaming to this server right now. All right. So this one will still remain as standby. You see here. So this is still our standby, and we have this guy now as a new primary. So if we run rs conf here just to see, we will see here that this guy has only um, um, it has the ID. It has the ID for these two servers here, but the other guy is down. So now we could still run the let's check our status again here. Okay, status. So with this will show us really good what is going on here. Oh, where did I run that? It's kind of loud. Let me run this way so that I can see exactly where it started. Okay. Okay. So here we could see here that we have a primary server, right? This is not reachable, right? So it's telling you that the old guy is not reachable, right? But then we have a new primary here, which is this guy here, right? And then that primary, we have a standby. So we have only two standbys here at the moment, okay? So our old primary is not reachable, it's actually down. So now this guy is taken over as the new primary. Now, the question is, what if we go ahead and start up this old primary here? If we decide to start up the old primary, what is going to happen? So if we start up the old primary, the good thing here with MongoDB is that when we start up the old primary, it will automatically just join the cluster automatically, as a standby. Here it will automatically just join the cluster and start streaming as a standby. So let's test that out. Let's go ahead because note it is not running, right? If we try to connect to it, it's actually not running. You can see here. So it's actually not running. It's down. All right. So let's go ahead and start that up, and we should see what's going on here. Let's go ahead and just issue the same command to start that up. Let's see what happens. Okay. So it's actually recovering. You see, recovering log one, recovering log two. It is recovering and is joining the cluster immediately, right, as a new standby. So what happened is let's hop over here and let's try to connect back to our instance here, the master. Right? You will see that it automatically comes up as a secondary server, right? So when it starts up the old primary, it comes back as a secondary server. So you could see here now from over here, from the primary here now, if we run the status here, we're going to see here that we now have our two primary servers, right? Okay. It's kind of, let me just do this so that's exactly where this starts. That's good. Okay. So now we could see here that we have we have a secondary server, which is the old master. It become now a secondary here, and then we have a primary, which is this, and we have a secondary server. All right. So that that works. That works great. So when you start it up, it just comes back and joins as a new standby. So looking at the East Master here, it tells us, it gives us all those hosts that are there. So this is good, and we've shut down the old primary. It promoted. We started up back. It joined as a new standby. Now the next thing is here is how can you force this? How can you decide to roll back, let the old primary take back its role as a primary? So there are a couple of ways we could do that, but I'm just going to show us one way in which we can achieve that. And one of the way we can achieve that is that we have a standby. So this is the we have this standby. We have two standbys here, this guy and the O primary. These are our two standbys, right? So what we will have to do here first is that we will need to freeze, right? Another option is we can freeze this old standby. So when we freeze this old standby, so that it should not become a standby, right? So when you freeze it, it's just that it should not become a primary, sorry. It's already a standby. If we freeze it so that it should not become a primary, right? So now we're gonna freeze it for a couple of, let's say, 120 seconds, right? If we run rs freeze here, we are actually freezing it so that it should not become the standby, and so that it should not become the primary. Then when we do that, we're going to take the new primary down, right? We're going to take it down. We're going to step it down. We're going to step it down from that role of the primary. So when we step it down now, promotion will attempt to take place. So when we step the master down, it will attempt now to promote. Since it cannot promote now the standby two, because we've actually freeze the standby two not from becoming the master, the only option is will be for it to promote the old master, right? So that's just a technique here. So we freeze this guy so that it should not become the new master, and then we'll step down the old master. And when you step down the old master, this guy cannot be promoted because this will freeze it, and then the only option will be to to go over to the old one. So let's just run that. So we're going to run freeze. Sorry, we're going to freeze this guy. Um, we're going to freeze it for 120 seconds. All right. So we're freezing the standby two for 120 seconds. So when we run that, need to see, okay, one. So we'll freeze that for 120 seconds. So quickly we need to go over to the master here, and we'll need to we'll need to take it down. So we'll need to say step down, right? So step down doesn't mean that it will actually shut down the server. It's just stepping down that role. Okay. We'll need to step it down for that time. So we'll run step down. So immediately step down. Look at it. Immediately we issue step down, the guy retakes the role of a secondary immediately. Right? It retakes the secondary of a mode immediately, and everything starts reconfiguring back. If we jump back to the old master here, we look at the logs here. This guy now is getting accepted, is getting promoted. So let's just, you see here, it takes the role of a primary immediately. Right? So so what we just did here is that we freeze the old, there's one of the standby so that it should not become the master. We, take we took down the our, our primary, and since it could not promote this guy, the only option was to promote this guy, and this is what we have here now. All right, so we have a new primary back, and on these two standbys, we have them streaming back as a secondary server, and this guy is streaming back as the secondary server, and everything is working back perfectly fine. Okay, so so this is exactly how you can get that done, and basically that just works perfectly fine. And I'm going to show you how we could actually set up replica set if we had an existing. Not doing very well here. That what we did here is we actually created a new a new directory, and then we used that as our MongoDB instance from scratch. The question now is, what if you have an existing MongoDB and you need to create a replica set from it? Right? If you have an existing MongoDB, you need to create a replica set, because here we just started up the entire, we started up the setup as a replica set, right? What if we had an existing standalone MongoDB instance? How can we create a replica set from it? Now, before we go into that, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just kind of go into the installation of MongoDB Compass before we talk a little bit into that. Okay, I'm going to look into the configuration of that. So for us to install the Compass MongoDB, and the reason why I just want to do this is just because I want us to actually see how we could connect, you know, um, 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 perform our connection, you know, using that. Okay, so there's a link where you can go in there and download that, but there are just a couple of commands I'm going to run here. So here I'm going to go over to my MongoDB Compass server. So this is where I'll have my Compass running. So quickly I'm going to install that. So I'm going to run install. First of all, just download that file with Compass, which is 1.26. So that should be able to get that downloaded. Let's go get that. download it very fast. Let's see if config. Okay. Unable to resolve host download MongoDB. I hope I'm able to. Okay. It says it's unable to. Okay, let me. Get that. Okay, let me see if I set up the repository. That should work. Let me just do VI that repository and set that up there. Let's see. That should fix the issue. Okay. Repository set up. Let me do this again. So let me see. That should be. Okay, let me download in this directory. So let me run that. Should download now. So it's just download the compers and then we'll go ahead and then install that fast. Okay. So that is installed. So we have that file there. Okay. So we need to just run the installation of it. Just run the installation of that. Oops. Yeah, looks like I had a couple of packages which I had to update this VM. A couple of different packages, but that should get done fast. And what I really want us to see is how we could use this GUI tool to connect to MongoDB. No, and we'll see how we could manage that. So with that installed, in order to start MongoDB, you could just, to start the compass, you could just do Mongo, I think it's MongoDB compass. Yeah, compass. And then, okay, running as root. Okay, let's just mention that this is not a sandbox. Okay, mention that in our sandbox. Then you should be able to start the shell, the GUI interface. So just give it a couple of minutes. It will start up and it's going to load out some plugins and initialize, and we'll see how we could could connect using that. Okay. So running migrations, just give it a little while and we should be up. Just gonna load some plugins and we should be done. Okay, that shit's gone. So let's just close this and you can just start using MongoDB. So this is our MongoDB compass. In order to connect there, we have to do MongoDB and we'll have to specify our IP address of our servers, 91.91. You know, we have it at start. The first one is 157. I think our primary here should be 157. Just double check. So our primary here should be 157. So by the way, config, that should be 157. Good. Okay. So let me open up the compass here. 157. Then I'm going to put a port. It's running on 2700. Then I can go ahead and put a command and I'll put my other node 128. This one is running on 1271. And then I put a comma. Oh, look like I wasn't typing. Put a comma here. Then I'm going to specify 192 dot 168 dot 91.128. So this one was running on 2701. And then I put a comma and then I specify the other one 192.168.91. That one was 130 and that one was running on 2702. And then I will need to specify my replica set, and this is how you specify it. Specify replica sets. So you have a simple way of specifying that, which you can just specify. So you have to say replica set here, and you put equals to, and then you put the name of your replica set. So here, check here, my name of my replica set is Ben replica set. Okay. So over here, I'll need to specify here. All right. So you need to make sure that everything you're specifying there is actually correct. Okay. Cassette. All right. So when I have this replica set, let me just verify that everything looks good, and let me connect. All right. MongoDB. Let me hit connect. So it's attempting to do the connection here. Let's see what it gives us. If this doesn't work, there is another workaround which we can. Let's just fill out the details one by one here. So I'm going to use this, and let me add the details here. It's going to be primary, and let me just let me connect this. Okay. there's something I need to check on. Need to double verify. Okay. Okay. Let me see. If I connect to the primary, let me see if I connect to one of the primaries here, which is 128. We don't have any validation here. So remember, you could use any of these password, Scrumshell, any of that. I'm just going to leave that there. Okay. So you could connect to different instances at the same time. So I'll check what's going on. But what you see here is basically that it shows you your cluster. And that cluster, you have 3 nodes, which is basically what we have when we're running this version of MongoDB, right? And there we have 3 hosts, right? So again, it is not like you must only use um, um, this to connect. Let's say, what I mean is, it's not like you must you should only use node that in the replica set to connect. Basically, even if you have single instances, you can still use that to connect as well. Just like from here, you could see the databases. You have the admin. You see we actually created the host and all of this. We could see all all our documents that we have in there and everything. You can also go ahead to add. You can do other stuff there, right? So this is actually a good tool you can use. So that's just just wanted to show that here. But then um, it depends on the connection string, right? If you want to like if I do a new connect here, right, I could decide to still perform another connection. It could come up, bring up another instance, but I don't want to do that. But you could, right? You could still connect, and this is actually good. You can do a lot of things from here, right? So that's what I wanted to show there. So let me just go ahead and disconnect this. So, and again, it's just connect because I had to specify a replica set. So if you use a standalone, there's no need to specify a replica set, right? Specify whatever, you could just do a normal connection there, all of that. Okay. Okay, so now let's see. Let's cover the last thing we have here, and I'm just quickly going to shut down these instances here, and use admin, and I'm just quickly going to stop these instances here, and then I will show us how if you have an existing I'm just going to stop all of them. Okay, server should be down. Yes. Then over here on the primary, oh, I made a mistake. I should have stopped, the primaries first, the standbys first. Should be going down. See, this guy was already promoted to be the primary since we stopped this guy. This one promoted to primary. We stopped this one promoted to the primary. So you see here, it's already a primary. We shut it down. All right. Okay, now let's take for example that over here on our main server here, and our main server here, you have a, and again, let me just do it over here. Okay, let me just do it over here so that um, let's take for example that in this case, I don't want to use a master, all right? And okay, anyway, there's no big deal. Let me vi/etc slash mongodb, right? For now, I just want to comment out this because I want to connect with using that now. Okay, just want to comment that out for now, and I'm gonna restart my MongoDB instance and on the primary. So I'm gonna do systemctl restart MongoDB. Okay, so MongoDB is restarted, and I know already my default port, which is 27017. This is my default MongoDB port. Okay, show DBs. So this is the default MongoDB I have. Okay, now let's take for example that this is our default. This is our default MongoDB we have, and let's take for example that now I'm not using the other ones I created already. I have to consider that this is just my default MongoDB which I installed, and I have data. I'm running it. I have a lot of data there. And let me just try to simulate some stuff here, like just create sample. I'm just going to create a couple of different, like almost the same tables or whatever in there. All right. So let me create. Let me see if I can create this here. Let me use another database called production. Right. And let me create this here. Let me do show collections. So I've created production. I create a table collection there called EMP details. And let me go ahead and insert some data inside there. Okay, just go ahead and insert a couple of huge stuff in there. Okay, so if I look at what I have there, if I do db, okay, db dot find, so on code exemption db of db, not dd, sorry, db. So you see, this is all the information I've inserted on that table, right? Let's take, for example, that this is your database you've been using. You have a production server you've been using with a lot of stuff in there, and you have to create a replica set off of this. So what do you need to do? So what you need to do is a couple of steps you need to follow. The first one is you need to shut down the server and you need to start it up as a replica set. All right. So in this case, what I'm going to do here is, let me see where my data directory is. So I have it here at Mongo varlib MongoDB. All right. Have it there at varlib MongoDB. And then I know the port is actually running on this port actually. Right. So you know the port, you know where it's running at. Okay. So now let me go ahead and let me just quit here. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to stop this instance here first. So I'm going to stop this instance. So the instance is stopped, and again I can't connect to it. It's stopped. All right. So what you need to do here is I will need to start it up with a replica set. All right. So I will use the same command I used earlier on to start that up, which definitely will still work. But in this case, I'm going to edit up, you know, um, all the details of my MongoDB. For the replica sets, I might decide to just use pen rep. I want to go to change the replica set over there in my real MongoDB instance here, and I will need to specify 017. Okay, so I stopped it. Now I'm going to start it up and specifying the replica set. So note it is an instance I'll be using. I already have data in there. So I'm going to start that up. So while that started up, what I'm going to do here is, oops, okay, let me see here. Let's switch here as root. And then I'm going to connect Mongo port 27017. Okay, so I'm connected to my MongoDB instance here, shell, MongoDB shell. Note I started it up using you know, that. So if I do rs status here, right, what we see here is that it's not a replication set anymore. So what am I going to do here is that I'm going to initialize that. So I'm going to initiate this. Right? When I run this, should be able to initiate, and you see there I have a primary. Okay, so now I have a primary there. Now the next thing is on the standby servers. The same thing I'm going to do on the standby servers is the same. So on the standby servers right now, these are just my standbys. I shut down everything here already. Okay, I did shut down everything here already. Okay, and note I did install MongoDB there already, so I could run the same command I ran here. Oh, it's this one. I could run the same command I ran over there. I'm just using the default right now. So, oops, here you go. So I can run this almost the same command. Note that they're using the same port because I'm using the actual default installation right now. So here, I'm going to run the same command here, the same thing. All right. So I'm going to start that up. So that I started, and then I'm going to run something here. But note that they are all on different hosts, right? They are all on different hosts, even though they have the same port. Okay. So now this is my new Mongo port 27017. So I'm connected here, and show DBs here. It's nothing here anyway. All right. So now I'm going to add these, the same command I used earlier, to add them to replica set. So I'm going to do rs add, and I'm going to do 192.168.1 91.128 column. So it's going to be on the same port, right? Since their default installation, they're going to be on the same port. They're on the same port. I didn't change a port anyway, but they have different IPs. So I'm going to go ahead to add this guy here. So good, that has been added there, and I'm going to add the next one. It's the same port, and it's going to be 30. So the main difference here is that you need to stop the existing server, start it up using a replica set, initiate it, and then you add the replica set. Basically, that's just it. So this has been added here. And then if I run my rs status here, basically I'll see that I have standby here, which is running on different host with the same port. Then I have another one here running different node with the same port. So again, all the information I had already on the main master will be replicated across here, right? So if I look, if I come over here and I attempt to connect, so this is show here. So if I attempt to connect here, MongoDB to 7017. Oh, it's Mongo, not MongoD. So I'm connected to the secondary, to the standby, right? So if I do show DBs, will not. So I need to run RS secondary. Okay, all right. So I could see that you see my production is streaming. So everything has been replicated. So what it does is just it will take the initial load and start replicating all the changes immediately. Right? You don't need to do anything there. So if I look on the other standby right now, I look on the other standby, you see them connected here to the secondary. And if I run RAS secondary, no, secondary, okay. Right, then show DBs, everything is there. So if I even use production here, I could see what I have there. All right, show collections. So you see that I have my collection there, everything's there. If I do DB, and then you could see that I have everything in there. Right, everything there. So everything is replicating. So that's the best. That's a way you could easily go around doing that, which is basically really easy, right? So I think we've covered all the things we're supposed to do on this list here. And I hope you enjoyed the video, and let me know if there's any comments or any questions, or you can hit me up. Thank you.